We are live. The Rotoworld Fantasy Baseball Player News Q&A. Eric Samulski, James Schiano here for you. We're our regular time, Monday, 1 p.m.
Back.
That's where we're going to be all season long, going over some of the news for the weekend, going over some of the big pickups, going over some questions you have for your roster. If you guys want to make sure before you set your lineups, you ask us any questions here. We've got a bunch of questions already in the chat. So that's great. Feel free to always kind of come in and get those questions in as soon as you can. But James, while we're letting some people get some questions in, how did you feel about the first weekend of baseball? You were also at Mets opening day. How you feel about the Mets right now? Just vamp about your opening weekend and opening a new Mets experience, and then we'll let some people come in.
Love to. I mean, I think rookies took over opening weekend. Rookies and ABS challenges. Those were, I think, the two biggest stories that kind of made waves nationally baseball wise.
Hey,
just kick me out.
I did. I said that.
Unbelievable.
It was terrible, James.
He said vamp. He said get out of here. But it was crazy to see the Nationals win 2 games. The Marlins, even though they played the Rockies, looked like they were just having an outrageous amount of fun playing baseball, something that felt like it could possibly carry over from last season. The Rays and Cardinals played one of the most shocking offensive-minded series I think we had in the opening weekend. I don't think anyone saw those teams combining for like the 40 runs they combined for, but it was nice to have baseball back. It was nice to have some changes, nice to have all these young players, and then it left a lot, I think, of meat on the bone for fantasy baseball this week in terms of ads, especially like in your guys' 10, 12 team leagues, a lot of these rookies that pops, but also a lot of the interesting deep league guys, especially that we talked about in that waiver piece yesterday.
Yeah, so we went over a lot of guys in the waiver piece. Obviously, we talked about this last week. The cadences. I released the first run of it on Friday. James updates everything, adds things with the weekend, so you guys are fully up to date on all that. I'm just curious, James. It was a very active weekend on waivers, just in the leagues I was in as well, and it wasn't just guys who slipped through the cracks in drafts. It was guys like we'll talk about like Cole Sands of the Twins and guys like that. How aggressive are you? Not just in early waiver wires, but like right now. Like it's been 4 days. Are you really trying to shake up your roster that much, or are you active? Like if you drafted a guy like say a Matt Swanson, right? And you're like, okay, the point of this spot is I'm going to see what happens early and I'm going to react. But like, were you dropping guys like Mick Abel, Brandon Sproat, guys like that?
Multiple of the guys you just mentioned, I did rage drop this weekend. I dropped Matt Swanson so fast in the saves hold league. He might have tanked my ERA to a point where I'm not going to get it back until July. And I know that the weather was warm, but that wasn't a very good offense he tanked it to anyway. He's going to fall down that bullpen hierarchy because of those events. I rage dropped him for Joey Weimer, who I think had a very interesting weekend. I did rage drop Brandon Sproat somewhere too, because again, we were hyping up Brandon Sproat for a soft early season schedule and exciting spring training. And then you watched him get torched by a White Sox team that got torched by the Brewers pitchers the other 2 games in that series. You're like, okay, maybe Brandon Sproat making the opening day rotation was a bit of a overreaction. But then I saw big bids in some of my leagues, guys like Eric Lauer and Emerson Hancock, who I'm not exactly sure I'm that invested into that degree. I myself put in some big bids in a few places for Randy Vasquez, who I think with the increased velocity showcased that he could be at least mixed team semi-viable. I saw big bids on Nolan Schanuel in the 12-team league. I think that is
that's being king.
Yes, that's 20th percentile. What do you need, right? Yeah. Like that's all we need.
No, now he's up to 73 miles an hour.
He got 73?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought I saw the 70s. I thought I saw 70s in opening day, and I was still basing off that. So again, Nolan Schanuel's always had the tools.
It was 73 and he hit once. I may have dipped out for a second. My internet's a pain in the butt, but it was 73, and I think so I'm pulling it up right now. Oh, sorry, I apologize. 71, but 71
okay. Average,
and he hit 2 home runs.
That's average.
Yeah,
that was a fun one to see too. The Angels lineup looked like it actually was having like I don't want to say it was a good time, but like there looks like some sneaky power up and down that lineup that we may not have anticipate as much heading into the season. This is the time for overreactions, though. Like, there's so much meat on the bone for the waiver wire week 1. You might have to overreact to takes you've had for months, but when you see the little bits of signal early on, like that could be your opportunity to do something, get ahead, and have a guy on your team and accumulate stats for you the entire season.
Yeah, and we'll talk about some of those guys, and we'll talk about some of those early season pitching performances towards the end. We got a bunch of questions rolling in, so we'll get to those. Feel free to keep adding or responding as we get into these comments. The first one is from Jetta asking, is Carter Jensen a better option than Yainer Diaz in a 12-teamer? I'm not ready to say that right now. Jensen is going to catch a lot because Sal Perez can, DH when he's not catching. But there are going to be some days where Jensen sits. I think that Yainer Diaz is still a really good fantasy catcher. Like, I understand the batting average from what I believe was like 2 years ago was not sustainable, and we maybe overdrafted him last year, and he's not like a top 4 catcher option. But I think he and Jensen are like right in the same range. Like, I kind of feel like they're kind of in the back half of the top 10, and I feel pretty good about both of them. And I would rather side with the guy who I think has a little bit more playing time guarantee and just more MLB experience. But that's it. Are you muted or? Oh no, James, the microphone. Well, I can't hear you. If anybody can hear James in the comments, just let me know, and let me know if it's me or if it's him. But I'll vamp on this for a second while we see if James' technical issue with the microphone.
Yep, I was technical. I tapped the top of my mic by accident. But
okay. There you go. Talk to us, James.
What I was going to say is that I think Jansen's playing time, at least now and while he has, is a bit more guaranteed because the Royals opened the season against Chris Sale, and then Matt Quadrado came out specifically and said that Jack Caglione was on the bench because that was too tough of a lefty for him to face. But Jensen, as a lefty, was in the lineup that day at the designated hitter. So I do feel like we always talk about the fact that you can only platoon so many spots on your team just because of the roster limitations. Only 4 bench players.
Yeah.
At least it seems like Jensen is the full-time lefty and Caglione is the soft platoon lefty until
that's true. Yeah, good point.
Maybe there's some kind of unless someone produces differently than the other person, that changes over the next few weeks. But Jensen right now has an inside track to every day. And it's kind of a toss-up with him and Yainer. But if you want to get the new shiny toy, like I don't fault you for going Jensen.
No, that's a fair point. That's a good call out, and that there's not really another guy who could push Jensen out. So sure, I'll take back the playing time thing. I think it's MLB experience. It's a little bit of a known commodity versus a roll of the dice, and that depends on your, your preference. But I lean Yainer still, but I don't fault you for moving on for Jensen. Well, good question here from Brenda Jones about streaming Ryan Weathers today, because today I posted my streaming starting pitchers of the week article. It's going to come out every Monday, aiming around like 9 a.m., 10 a.m. every Monday. I list my favorite streaming starting pitchers for the entire week. That's Yahoo 40% rostered and under. And I only list the starting pitchers I would stream. So like, I'm not going to list like the Rockies guys or whatever. So there are some guys you don't see listed. And so that's why it's digestible as a full article. But I had Ryan Weathers as a guy I felt fairly confident in against the Mariners today, partly because it's in Seattle and we know that's a really good park for pitching, partly because I think the Mariners lineup is fine but not great, and because we know that Ryan Weathers, when he's on, has the upside to like really pitch well against any offense. And so I'm kind of on board with taking that flyer today.
The one thing I'll push back on a bit is I think this Mariners lineup actually might be quite good now, especially with the way that, they're much better against right-handed pitcher than left-handed pitcher, which will work in Ryan Weathers' favor. But that was one of the teams that definitely impressed me the most this past weekend. Saturday night, I shunned basketball so I could watch Brian Wu versus Joey Cantillo in Seattle, and that was a pleasure. I miss watching Brian Wu scowl when he comes off the mound every single inning, good, bad, or ugly. But that lineup is a little bit scary right now. I think scarier than most Mariners lineups we've seen in a very long time. And I'm not ready to call them, kind of like you said, before going from average to quite good, but I think that could get quite good. So I guess lefty, I'm more likely to stream because again, it's a much more lefty heavy platoon based lineup, but that's one to watch as we start to move through these weeks and learn what we have to learn.
I think it probably hinges on what you think about Luke Raley and Dominic Canzone. The bottom four of that lineup is Luke Raley, Dominic Canzone, Cole Young, and Leo Rivas.
Yes.
And so we'll just say, just to your point, 3 of those guys we mentioned are lefties.
Yes.
Rivas is a switch. And Raley and Canzone are guys they usually platoon against lefties, which means you're getting Rob Refschneider and Victor Robles. And now Refschneider crushes lefties, so that's not
he hit
really
leadoff
a downgrade.
In that game against Cantillo. He jumped up to leadoff and Brendan Donovan moved down the lineup. So they are going to be like trying like really sharpen up against these platoons. But that's if I'm a lefty, I'm I think less scared of Robles and Refschneider than a righty with Canzone and
Raleigh and Naylor also off to really slow starts. And even if they get it around, like just for Weathers tonight, I feel pretty good about that. I feel better about the next one, which is, am I buying the Cody Ponce hype? I don't know if it's hype. I'm not ready to say that this is Cody Ponce hype. I think that the splitter is like a really good pitch. Like this is another guy who basically went to the KBO, picked up 2 miles an hour on his fastball, added a kick changeup, and came back looking like a much better pitcher. And so like, that's cool. I like that. I also like that he's a 2-start pitcher this week against Colorado at home again, and then against the White Sox.
Yeah.
So I'm buying the hype in regards to the fact that he's on a good team with a locked-in spot in the rotation and has 2 really good matchups this week.
And watching the Blue Jays this weekend, like it's one thing to see Kevin Gausman, Dylan C strike out double-digit batters. To watch Eric Lauer for 17 swings and misses, strike out 9, I'm like, we're probably only a few months away from like putting the Blue Jays, if things continue like we saw at the end of last year. And again, it's a long way away, but like you're starting to get like the little hints of devil magic with this Blue Jays team. If you turn Eric Lauer into a 25% strikeout great guy, like I'm sure Ponce will be amazing as well.
In that article today that I talked about the streaming starting pitchers at the bottom, I referenced some pitch mix stuff. The new Dylan Cease changeup, it looked really good, man. Like it's up 5 miles an hour. It had a good strike rate. Like and he threw it a lot to lefties, like 17% to lefties. Like him just having usable other pitches besides just the fastball and the slider is everything for him. Like that, I like what they're doing right now. It's one series, but I like what they're doing. Do you like what Brandon Woodruff is doing? He gets the Rays on Tuesday, but there was all this like, he's going to make the opening day rotation. He's not going to make the opening day rotation. He's got this lat issue. He might not say it's like, I don't know that I'm ready to use him in that. And that's not even a Rays thing. Like it wouldn't surprise me if he goes 4 innings. And I don't know how I feel about it right away.
No, I agree with you. I'm trying to find how many pitches he most recently threw, because I think he had a final spring tune-up, but I can't find the exact number right now. It was just, the situation was so weird with him. Oh, here, March 20th, he threw, shout out pitcher list right here, doing some quick math because it's listed on the bottom, 62 pitches. So you probably are getting 85 at most.
Yeah. And you have to think the jump is going to be cautious with him because he matters a lot to them. So maybe you're getting between 70 and 75 in this one. And so if he's efficient, that should be 5 innings. But is he going to be efficient? Like, it's tough.
The version we saw last year was hyper efficient, but I would
for sure. Oh yeah, it was great.
Caution people not to expect to see that maybe start one. He's someone I'm not scared of, but I am waiting and seeing.
You know who I'm scared of?
Scared
for? Carlos Estevez. Yeah, man, that was bad. Like, first of all, it was bad. I posted a GIF that was like the first Carlos Estevez save opportunity, and it was the scene from Tommy Boy where Chris Farley is just reenacting the car crash. He makes the car crash, and then he lights it on fire. Then he throws it off the table, and it just escalates. That was a really, really bad save chance. His velocity was up from the spring, but it was 91, and he was throwing 96 last year. So, like, that's not good. And to me, like, maybe this is me just, like, calling in my priors. I always felt like he walked a tightrope. Like, I always felt like even though he had all those saves last year, that when I saw him pitch, I was like, this dude shouldn't be leading baseball in saves. I think the ankle injury, he's still in a walking boot as of this morning. I think the ankle injury is a perfect way for them to say, let's shut it down for a couple weeks and let's figure out what is going on. The problem for him is that Lucas Urseg's velocity is back up. And if we get a version of Urseg that we saw last year, but with the velocity that we saw 2 years ago, you're looking at a closer who could have a sub-3 ERA with, like a 28, 30% strikeout rate. And I don't know that he gives that job back.
No, the big thing that was kind of working Estevez's favor last year was Ursig kind of him, I don't want to say falling by the wayside, but just it was not the same level of velocity stuff that we saw the season before. And while Estevez's strikeout rate fell down, I almost like feel bad that they even threw him into that spot on Saturday night. It's like that pitch he threw Dom Smith for the grand slam. Like if I was in the home run derby, that's the pitch I'd want. Like give me 91 belt high, like 2 inches towards the inside of the plate. And Dom Smith murdered that baseball. So again, like it sucks for the Royals themselves that it took that for Estevez to now lose this job, and who knows if he ever gets it back. But this is it's almost like I probably would drop Carlos Estevez in like any 12s and maybe a 15.
The only reason I wouldn't right now is because I think there's a chance that the ankle injury puts him on the IL, and then you can just move him to the IL and not have to worry about dropping him. But I'd be close otherwise, for sure. Who I'm not worried about is Wyatt Langford. I just like players like this. I'm not worried about after 4 games or 3 games. Like I get that it wasn't good. I get that Langford has not lived up to the hype, in previous seasons, but he's been pretty good. And I'm not worried right now.
No, you kind of can't. If you're going to be just worried about Wyatt Langford after 3 games, like this is baseball. Like the thing is that he's been a little bit underwhelming for multiple years in a row, but we have a long way to go here. Very long way to go.
Yeah. Speaking of long way to go, what are your feelings on Jordan Romano for saves? Look, I get why people bid big on him. And I understand that like last year was a really unlucky year, and the year before that he was hurt, but like the velocity still hasn't come back to pre-surgery Jordan Romano, and I don't know that it will. And he's their closer now. I don't think that that's a question, and I don't know that like Kirby Yates just pushes him out when he comes back, or Ben Joyce pushes him out when Ben Joyce comes back, even though Ben Joyce is my bet to lead this team in saves at the end of the season. I don't know that I can trust Jordan Romano anymore. I think if the Angels are smart, and they're not always smart, they're going to let Romano and Yates run with the closer gig for a while, and then maybe try and trade them when they fall out of playoff contention over the summer, and then let Ben Joyce do it. But I feel free to pick him up, but I wouldn't go huge with your bids on Jordan Romano.
A few hours ago, The Athletic released a visual, and I think an article that came with it about polling 11,000 fans that participated in their MLB Hope-O-Meter. So what percentage of a team's fan base has hope in their team? You know what the Angels' percentage was?
3%?
It was 5.7%. The only team worse was the Minnesota Twins. And those were the only 2 teams that were below 24%. So this is a team that, like you said, doesn't do everything smart. Averaged 94.5 this past weekend, but with 7.5 feet of extension. I don't know. We see this happen with teams all the time, and we do the same rigmarole where it's like we want the guy with the best stuff to close, but in that dugout, they always want the guy with the most experience to close. So sometimes it always becomes a function of those 2 things working against one another. So like Romano will keep this job, but you might get ugly ratios on the way to a few blown saves that eventually make him lose it. So just tread lightly.
Well, tread lightly. Speaking of his teammate, what's your confidence meter for season-long success for Jose Soriano?
Too high.
Is it? Because I never know when he's going to have a good start. I know that he's fully capable of it, but every time you bench this guy because he's like going against the Dodgers or the Astros or the Phillies, he has a great start, and then you're like, all right, he's facing the Twins, and he gives up like 7 runs in 4 innings, and you're like, I don't understand.
I like that. The Angels. I'll say this. nicely. The Angels have finally entered like 2016-17 in terms of modern pitching development, like with Mike Maddox. Like he's a great step forward for them where they're not going to inundate the people in the organization with too much and overwhelm. But at the same time, they've definitely taken a step forward. I think for a guy like Soriano, just trusting that four-seam fastball so much more against the left-handed hitters, just seeing that, I'm like, oh, nice. Like I know that pitch when it sits 99 miles an hour will get people out. You know that's going to happen. It's not a great shape, but it will get people out. And the
Right.
way that he's still able to work the splitter off that also is basically a new pitch. I just think that's functional, and for him to be functional against lefties is really the entire key. Because the sinker and this curveball will get righties out. I'm very excited about Jose Soriano.
And
I will get hurt, but I'm very excited.
the issue is he's got to get ahead versus lefties because I do like the splitter, but he can't really command it.
I never will.
Listen, I like him. He was like one of my favorite late round starting pitchers last year, and it didn't quite click last year. There were moments where it did. I still worry about the command. I still worry about just the consistency. But if you want to keep him on your roster, like by all means, I just don't know how real it is. But he has as much upside as a lot of guys that you're picking up. I don't know that, like, for example, drop Joe Burrows, drop Mike Burrows for Randy Vasquez, Ryan Weathers, or Parker Messick. I would not. And I'll say this. I'm not a huge Mike Burrows fan. I like Mike Burrows. I like what the Astros are doing. He has a bad four-seam fastball. So you have to understand that, like, a lot of the changes the Astros are making are to hide a weakness. And so that always is like a tightrope to walk for pitchers. The issue for me is, like, I would maybe, if you maybe wanted to drop him for Ryan Weathers, actually, I did have Ryan Weathers higher than Burrows. So I would probably make that move. I'm not ready to move off Burrows for Randy Vasquez or Parker Messick. Messick has the Dodgers and the Cubs his first two starts. Like, you're just not going to use him. You mentioned Randy Vasquez's uptick in velocity, but he also lost extension. And so that kind of reduces the impact of the uptick in velocity. It's like, it's great that you throw harder, but if you also lost 0.3 inches of extension, the added velocity won't really look as much like added velocity. So I am still intrigued by Randy Vasquez. He made some other tweaks and changes that I want to see in his next start, but not enough to drop Burrows. Are you dropping Burrows for anybody other than Weathers?
I don't believe so. I might even lean to hold Burrows over Weathers, but I think that's very close to me. Vasquez, again, like I am excited for, but he is on, again, this fringy 12-team line, which even to go back to Soriano, I think that's why you hold Soriano, because he's, to me, at least a tier above this fringy waiver 12-team line. But like we always talk about, like, and you mention all the time, like just look at these guys' next three starts. Who they're lined up for should be the tiebreaker here. And that's why Messick kind of isn't included. Weathers could be, and Burrows not so bad.
Yeah. Take the lead on this one about Owen Casey.
Casey. I love Owen
how
Casey.
Real? And are you dropping either of Munetaka Murakami or Adolis Garcia for him in a 10-team league?
To get this out of the way, I would not drop Munetaka Murakami for anybody right now. Like Murakami is going to be one of the most fascinating player archetypes we've ever seen. To see what he did this first weekend, to walk in a third of the plate appearance and hit 3 more home runs with that. Casey for Garcia, though, seems like a slam dunk move for me. We have 1,000 plate appearances over the last 2 seasons of Adolis Garcia not being a premier hitter anymore. I do think he'll find a bit more success in a better Phillies lineup and a better park to hit in Citizens Bank. But Owen Casey, he had probably the most impressive opening weekend, basically only behind Chase DeLauder and Munetaka Murakami. The way that he came in off the bench yesterday, hit that walk-off home run to give the Marlins a sweep. He got thrust into a lineup on Friday night against a lefty when he was supposed to be on the bench. Christopher Morel pulled his oblique or something, wound up on the injured list. He laces a double off of Kyle Freeland with 2 strikes in the first inning. It's great poise. I think the swing and miss was overblown. He made the swing adjustment last year in AAA, and I put this link to a Baseball Savant query in our waiver article this weekend, where if you look at his whiff rate by month at AAA last year, Owen Casey, it dropped like a rock after June when he calmed his hands a little bit. It's a situation where the Cubs might be watching this being like, wow, this guy maybe could have helped at times last year. But I think it's very, very real. And also, I give a lot of credit to the Marlins with what happened with Kyle Stowers last year. And that gives me just another nudge more confidence in a player of a similar archetype that can do the same kind of crazy raw power thing that Kyle Stowers can.
Yeah. I would not. Speaking of raw power, I think I'm keeping Addison Barger over Casey though.
I think so. That's close though to me.
It is close. It's very close, and it's also because we only have one season of Barger doing what he did, and there were some contact issues for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And the Blue Jays, if they wanted to, right? Because we know they like Nathan Lukes. They let him get that opening day start as like a thank you for helping them get to the World Series. And they now have Jesus Sanchez. If they wanted to, against right-handed pitching, they could sit Barger every now and then. Like if he really was struggling. They're a team that wants to contend. I'm not saying Barger's losing playing time, but I'm saying like if you're matching him up with Casey, I'm still holding Barger. But if Barger has a cold month, it wouldn't surprise me if he's not an everyday guy, and everyday versus right-handed pitching. He could become part of a rotation. And I think that the Marlins are in a place where Casey's just going to play because he should, and he kind of has to. Like they're young and they should be building him.
Both will sit against lefties though. Usually that is a tiebreaker.
Yes.
I think that the fact that that's a tie again, it just comes down to the players. And probably, in my eyes, even come down to lineup and supporting cast. You probably just get a little bit better baseline production from Barger than Casey, just because if he's on base, a better chance of him being driven in. When he comes to the plate, there's a better chance of somebody being on base. Like that situation like this where we kind of talent is a little bit similar. I think Casey might have bigger boom, but that's also kind of not just to say that Barger doesn't have big boom potential, truthfully.
Yeah. And Murakami, obviously, you mentioned the big boom there. I mean, like, those are his only 3 hits, people, just so we get that out there. Like,
it's going to be fun, yeah.
Yeah. And he had a 22% swinging strike rate in the spring. So it's going to be interesting to watch. I think that if you can get Murakami to hit 230, he's going to be so really valuable if you're your fantasy team because the power is going to be huge. But you got to hope he hits 230. And it certainly could. He's going to really help you in on-base percentage in like OPS leagues because he does walk, but the average could be a bugaboo.
And he's really going to hurt you if you're in a points league that deduces for strikeouts because there's not going to be a lot of other hits to like buoy his value. And also, it's going to be crazy what happens to Murakami this year. I can't wait to watch it.
It'll be interesting. Yeah. Speaking of power, Torkelson or Berger as a backup first baseman. Listen, I have Jake Berger in like 8 of my 9 leagues. And so the 2 homers to begin the season were like real confirmation bias for me, but I'm buying back in. I mean, this is a dude who in the 2 years prior to last year was basically a 250-30 homer hitter. I don't think he's going to be like meaningfully better. I just think that last year was a bad year, and I think he's a 250-30 homer hitter. And so I like Jake Berger.
And he's hitting 4th in that lineup. It's a great spot for him. I think Torkelson's hitting 5th for the Tigers as well, so it's also a decent spot. But the Rangers lineup falls off quickly, but not until you get to Jake Berger.
Right. How would you rank these 3 catchers rest of season? Adley Rutschman, Francisco Alvarez, Carter Jensen.
It still has to be Adley first. When Alvarez hit that home run opening day, I couldn't even see straight, and that ball hit the front facing of the left field deck. There's probably no player I root for in Major League Baseball more than Alvarez. I always like to, double hedge myself with fantasy baseball because I love the guy so much. And there were a few 12-team leagues where I took him as the last catcher, and I was like, thank you everybody for this. But I think I'm probably leaning basically to the orders we're in. But Alvarez and Jensen to me are a pure toss-up. Either of those guys could boom. Either of those guys could struggle. And Alvarez maybe has a slightly greater chance of injury just because of his history, so that probably knocks him down maybe slightly behind Jensen. But Adley to me is a firm rung above those players still. He had a great opening weekend, but those other two are a toss up, I think, until we know more. And maybe the tiebreaker is that Francisco Alvarez has hit 9th for the Mets in the 2 games he started, and Jensen is towards the back, but closer just at least to the middle of the Royals lineup.
I was hoping for an Adley bounce back. I think we're going to get it, and so I'm happy. He had a great first weekend. I'm still holding on to him as well. How many saves for Paul Sewell, Dennis Santana, Ryan Stanek this season? You're a Mets fan, so you understand the Stanek experience.
I do.
I will say that, yeah, true. I will say that I think it's a little unfair with like the blown save because it was a huge lead, and he was not expecting to be in the game. And then Matt Swanson was like coughing things up, and they were like, "All right, Stanek needs to come in." And I just think that's not as easy as being like, "Hey, I'm getting a save chance, and I'm like ready to go," and whatever. I don't know that I trust Stanek as a closer there. I don't know that he gets to double digit saves this year. I think I think he's the guy right now. There's a lot of guys in that bullpen. I don't know that I trust him. The Pirates have said Dennis Santana is not their everyday closer. There are two other guys, Mason Montgomery and Gregory Soto are lefties. So I think Santana will get the most versus righties. And I think Paul Sewald has the best chance to just like hold on to a 80% closer gig for the whole season. I know you're going to be like, he only throws 92, but that's actually good for him because he was only throwing like 90 last year, and 92 was what he was throwing when he was saving 30 games a year. So like, and the Diamondbacks are a pretty good team. So I would not surprise me if Sewald is the only guy here to get over 20 saves.
I still think that might have been some lip service by the Pirates, because watching their bullpen usage against the Mets this week, they deployed Santana as if he was their closer. Like Soto came in one game, I think in the 6th, just to face a couple tough lefties, and he went through an up down, got through the 7th after that, possibly was 7th into the 8th before their extra inning game on Saturday. I do think that Santana is still getting the bulk of those saves, but I think they're leaving the door open for even Soto, Montgomery, even Justin Lawrence, who was using high leverage as well.
Sure.
It's a good chaotic mix of relievers there who are something's going to go wrong for all of those guys, but Santana was the guy they consistently trusted as we got to the 9th. Stanek also he's the classic. It looks so much better in a spreadsheet than it does in the real baseball game. Because like you see his pitch plot and you see his stuff, you're like, Stanek, how's this not going to work out? And you watch him in a game, it's like he's just throwing 3 pitches on the same lather, one after the other, that are all similar velocity. And like, oh, probably someone's gonna just get a bad hit on one of these at some point.
Yeah. Drop Max Muncy, the Dodgers for Adolis Garcia, 12-team Roto OPS. Pick Muncy back up.
Yeah, I don't have the fascination with Adolis Garcia right now. I really don't.
Yeah. Please go pick Muncy back up would be what I would say.
Yeah.
Yeah. Best chance at a future closers gig, Edwin Uceta or Grant Taylor? What say you, James?
I mean, that's tough. I think Taylor is better, but I still don't know how the White Sox will eventually deploy him. I think they like to be like a little bit lucid with him more so. I think they like to get him going for 2 innings, 6th and 7th, 5th and 6th when they see fit, rather than be like, you're going to get saves. I was probably a little more scared than I should have been of Griffin Jackson's weekend. I have him in a lot of places. I love him as a pitcher. He looked bad after looking bad at times last year, even though the underlying stuff was all very good. Uceta probably will siphon off some save chances for him. I think that's almost a guarantee at this point once he's healthy. So I'd lean there while acknowledging Taylor has the best stuff of that duo.
I think better chance at a closer's gig is Uceta. I really like Grant Taylor, and I think he can be a really useful reliever who gets some 3-inning saves and gets some wins and whatever. But I think that the Rays like mixing and matching their closers, and I know Fairbanks was good enough that they just let him run with it. But I don't know that Griffin Jacks was always going to be the 100% closer. And so with Uceta coming back, I think it's going to just be a committee, or when he comes back, I think it's going to be a committee there. That's my answer. Eric Lauer, or was it just the A's?
I mean, good question.
A little of both.
Yeah.
The fastball looked good. The shape was a little different. The changeup is a little different.
It's the only thing he threw to lefties, really.
Yeah. Well, the changeup a little bit too, I believe. Yeah. Oh, that was to right. Sorry, to right.
Yeah, right. No, lefties was 75% fastballs.
I like Eric Lauer, but I liked him coming into the year as a streamer, and that's still how I view it. So I'm not ready to be like, this is a thing. I think it's a thing in the sense that, like, I think he's in their rotation for a while, like until Savage comes back. Like, they don't have anybody else, really. I'm not banking on anything from Jose Barrios this year. And so until Savage is back, Lauer's in that rotation. And so, like, in a 15-team league, yeah, go at him. He's on a really good team, and he's a pretty decent pitcher. In a 12-team league, I would be playing matchups with him.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Another Alois question from Frank says Tyler O'Neill or Alois Garcia. So now we're more in my Alois Garcia range than the Max Muncy Murakami range. Where are you at with these two guys?
Tyler O'Neill, I'm pulling up the three lineups the Orioles had this weekend because he was someone who I think there was some worry that playing time would be lost as a right-handed batter. But now just checking back here one more time, Tyler O'Neill was in the lineup for 2 out of 3 games. All 3 were against righties. That's probably I kind of want to say it might not be enough for me. That's to me saying that Dylan Beavers proves himself a little bit more, or Ryan Mountcastle, that Tyler O'Neill will lose playing time. I know we had a good game this weekend, but he's not someone I'm really rushing to put in the lineup right now.
I would still lean Garcia because I think that Garcia has the ability to contribute in more categories, obviously with some speed, and the park is really nice for him if he starts to get going. But I picked up Tyler O'Neill in a few places, mostly like 15 teams and draft and holds. In a 15-team league, I'm holding on. In a 12, I'm happy to move on. But I do think he's going to get the majority of the playing time out there. But there are a lot of mouths to feed.
Definitely.
Vanessa wants to know, and Vanessa has a question in on Twitter. So just remember that now that we are doing this live on Twitter, these questions do come to us. So make sure you put them in there. Vanessa's question is, would you trade Eugenio Suarez for Munetaka Murakami? I would not.
Yeah, I don't think so. Not yet.
I think they're similar profiles, and so I would much rather have the hitter who's done it many times before in a much better home park.
And with, weirdly enough, a much better lineup around him to even say that about the Reds.
Yeah. Another trade question. Would you trade Wyatt Langford for Yordan Alvarez? And that's an interesting one.
I would.
Because I think I'd rather have Yordan.
Yordan could be the guy who just sneaks up on everyone this year. Just plays 140 games, his 40 home runs. And the Yordan Alvarez, health notwithstanding, median expectation is kind of what you want the breakout potential for Wyatt Langford. So what you're doing right there is you're betting on or against the health of these two players. That's always a place where I'd rather just assume health.
And you're saying maybe, but again, look at your roster. Maybe getting those 20-plus steals from Langford is like really valuable to you, but that's probably the only reason. And it's maybe too early in the season to be prioritizing one category like that. You can make another move to try to get steals later, or pick up David Hamilton off the waiver wire or something.
We're at the same time. This is the best time of the whole season to trade. Fire some out.
So maybe, I guess I would say it is if you're the one buying for the people who are like panic freaking out. Do not panic trade like your top 10 round picks right now.
Go get Julio Rodriguez right now. Yeah, go get Wyatt Langford. Go out and get someone who's the manager is really scared about.
Yeah, agreed. Is Owen Casey the top ad amongst him, Joey Wiemer, and Jordan Walker? Yes, for me.
I think so.
Yeah. And I know you mentioned Wiemer before, and I like Wiemer, but he started against 2 lefties. And so he may just start against lefties. And that reduces, what we expect from him. Listen, in a month, we could look back and say, hey, Jordan Walker was clearly the top ad amongst these 3. At some point, it might click for him, but it hasn't yet. And so, I know he hit a homer and had a really good game on Sunday, but I think Casey is the top ad of that group.
Nate Schwartz, a pitcher list, had a great tweet about Jordan Walker. He's been talking a lot about Jordan Walker's approach. Now, that's been the thing that has hindered him more so than any kind of bat path or anything else that we've spoken about with Jordan Walker a lot over the last few years. I want to find the exact tweet. Hear this. So heading into after play on March 28th, Jordan Walker's at bat so far and when they ended. 0-1, 1-0, 0-0, 0-0, 0-0, 3-2. So that was 6 plate appearances. 5 of them, he put a ball in play within the first 2 pitches of the at-bat. So that's a guy who's going up there and being aggressive. I think if other teams start to realize that, that's because that's a guy who has really struggled with swing decisions over the last year since all this bad stuff's happened with Jordan Walker. He's going to start to see a lot of junk early in counts if he continues to hit the ball like this, because there's no reason to pitch to him in that Cardinals lineup. There's very few hitters who could really hurt you there with a ball over the fence. So if there's that one right there, don't give him a curveball for his pitch.
A little news, just minor news, but the Marlins have optioned Davison De Los Santos back to AAA. So
Okay.
if you were banking on like, hey, this dude hit a lot of homers in the minors, and I'm going to add him, well, don't, or move on from him now.
What was the
So
corresponding move? Because De Los Santos got his start on Sunday against
uh,
a left-handed pitcher.
Leo Jimenez, who they claimed off waivers from the Blue Jays, is up.
Okay. I kind
And
of like Leo
so
Jimenez.
Craig Mish said that he expects Connor Norby to start at first
Okay.
while Morel is out. So if you're in on Norby, or if you have Norby in deeper formats, Norby then could be first base, third base, which is like a little interesting. That opens up third base for Jimenez or for Graham Pauley, or
Yeah.
something like that.
So that also reopens a spot for. I mean, I guess Austin Slater's there, so not for Casey, but Slater
Yeah,
and De Los Santos both started on Sunday against the lefty, and both were on the roster.
yeah. Um, Speaking of the inverse, people who don't start against lefties. Dom Canzone's 2 tanks and strong finish last year encouraged me, so I added him to my 14-team Dynasty weekly points format. How do you think Canzone profiles versus Laureano and Kerry Bonds as a bench bat? For me, Kerry Carpenter tops that 3. Similar situation with Canzone, where he's not going to play against lefties. Similar, like, pitcher-friendly ballpark, but I just think Kerry Carpenter is a better hitter and a better bet for sustained production. I like Laureano though. Like, Laureano had a good year. I think Laureano's in a good spot in the pot with the Padres, but you know better than me in points formats how you'd side these all these guys up.
Yeah, especially in a weekly points format, I always lean to the players not being platoons. So I would probably slightly prefer Laureano in this sense, just because you're probably getting 6 games in a week instead of 4 or 5. But the Canzone and Carpenter's fun. That's like Charmander and like Charmeleon. Like that's for Pokemon people out there. Like Canzone wants to become he wants to become Kerry Carpenter. Like that's the goal for Canzone, is to be Kerry Carpenter. Even though I think they're not that different in age, but that's just like sometimes in dynasty leagues we get caught up in trying to find the guy who could be the next thing, but then
Right.
you're selling the thing that he actually wants to become. So just keep the thing you already have sometimes. Even though I do like Canzone, that's my Buckeye brother. We were at Ohio State at the same time, fellow American Italian. He's watching play a little bit of ball out there. He's fun.
Yeah. Good for you, Canzone. Do you trust Brian Bayo at Houston and rest of season? No, at Houston. Maybe at like 15 teams rest of season. I think Bayo, with this cutter sinker 4-seamer mix, is evolving into like a solid ratio low strikeout arm. And so in a fifth, that's just a profile that is more interesting to me in a 15-team league.
Yeah, I agree on all that. I always want to like Bayo more than I do, because I watch a change. When I got there was a nice changeup like that. Like it's such an aesthetically pleasing pitch, even though it doesn't actually really turn into something all that often. But it's can't really like put it into place. And there's so many other exciting pitchers at the Red Sox. I do wonder where his standing actually is in that organization.
Yeah. Yeah. I wish the changeup hadn't fallen off so much. And there was so much focus on developing the sweeper, and it hasn't quite developed. I thought that he was going to be traded when they added Sonny Gray and Ranger Suarez, and they moved Bayo for like more of an impact player. Like Bayo is part of a deal for Ketel Marte, or something like that, where like
Piece of the package.
you're moving him for a another asset. It didn't quite work, so we'll see. We'll see what happens there. I'm not starting him against Houston. No. Is Gage Jump worth holding on to in one of my NA spots? No, for me. Jump made it to AA in the, keep wanting to call it Oakland organization, but it's not, in the A's organization. So there's a chance that he is up. But you're looking at like a mid-rotation starter who maybe gets called up to the Athletics at some point over the summer. And so like I would much rather have like, Cade Anderson of the Mariners, or just like a lot of other starting pitching prospects over Gage Jump.
The ballpark really works against Jump in this case. It's just going to be a terrible place to pitch. We haven't had like a really good pitcher on the A's yet since they moved there, so we haven't had to make these tough decisions. But if Jump actually impresses like in a road start when he gets called up, then the decision will be difficult.
Yeah, maybe if it happens. Rays had Ben Williamson, Johnny DeLuca, Mullins, Simpson, DeLuca, protecting Caminero in the 5-6 spot this weekend. Why would anyone pitch to Junior with the setup? That is Ben Williamson erasure.
Ben Williamson right now.
Man has so many hits right now. I will say, like, listen, Ben Williamson, props to him. He was like a glove first third baseman for the Mariners, and now he's playing second for the Rays because of the Gavin Lux injury. And he's going to have a lot of singles, right? He's 5 for 9 to start the year. He has 5 singles. But if you just need batting average and some runs scored, Ben Williamson is going to be second base, third base eligible. And, it's interesting. But yes, this Rays lineup is not particularly good, and I don't think the team is going to be particularly good this year.
No, I think this weekend was a mirage for that lineup.
Yeah. And they still lost 2 games to the Cardinals. Yeah. Vanessa has a question. I'm going to tee you up for this one, James.
Should I have DeLauder?
Should I have DeLauder in the lineup versus Roki Sasaki?
Oh, for sure. You should have me and Eric in the lineup against Roki Sasaki. Like I can get hit by a pitch against Roki Sasaki. It'll hurt, but I'll be on first base, and I might be able to steal one for you. DeLauder's 10-team viable right now. Like he shouldn't be available in any league. Like we knew the tools were there. He just has to stay healthy. Right now, he's healthy. He should be in the lineup. The Guardians are. He hits second on opening day. Like clearly, they have a lot of faith in him. He's in between Stephen Kwan and Jose Ramirez. Like I don't think I would ever, me or the Guardians, ever take him out of the lineup unless he physically can't play right now.
So let's follow that up. In a points league, Third Eye wants to know how you rank Chase DeLauder, Wyatt Langford, Jacob Marcy, and Wilyer Abreu in a points league.
I think it's definitely Langford DeLauder, and then the questions begin. I think I prefer Wilyer Abreu as the player over Marcy, but like we're saying, in a weekly points league, Wilyer's. I don't think you started against lefties, right? Have the Red Sox faced a lefty yet?
They did, Abbott, and he started.
Okay, so then I think that answers our question then. Langford, DeLauder, Wilyer, and then Marcy at the back.
Yep. I agree. I think Abreu's in for a big year. I think they're going to play him against a lot of lefties. I think Wilyer Abreu's in for a good year.
He looks really good.
Skywalker says, please rank in points. So this is points hour for you. We got a lot of points questions. So I'm just going to tee him up and sit back. Eugenio Suarez, Max Muncy of the Dodgers, Munetaka Murakami, Sal Stewart.
I will one plea I'll make to you guys moving forward is that the points league formats on Yahoo and ESPN are very different. The Yahoo points format leans almost identically to the player value in a rotisserie league because of the points they give for stolen bases, where ESPN is the more quote unquote standard points league, where it's true points based scoring without weights in many other directions. And I'm gonna say something crazy. I think Sal Stewart's first on my list here.
I don't think that's crazy. I was going to say the same thing.
Sal Stewart hit 700 over the first weekend of baseball, like with an on-base percentage that was like 800. Like he's outrageously good right now, and I think that coming into the season, you were very high on him going back to last year. Just seeing the batted ball quality in the upper minors and what he did in a short sample, it's like this. I don't think there's really any stopping this guy as a hitter. I don't know what's going to come of him on defense, or like if that ever forces him to miss some playing time, but he's going to rake. And I think then the rest of this list, I would go Stewart, Suarez. I'd probably still take Muncy over Murakami, but I'd probably think hard about that one.
Last points league question for you. Second base, Luke Keeschel, Matt McClain. I don't know that Colson Montgomery is second base.
I think on Yahoo he might be.
Maybe he is? Okay. So Luke Keeschel, Matt McClain, Colson Montgomery, Brandon Lau. Head-to-head points league.
There's another one where in my heart I want to promote Colson Montgomery because last year, like watching him, I was like, I know this approach is bad, but like I can't really deny these tools. This is ridiculous. And he came out of the gate blazing hot again. So I was like, if he can just mash his way to 30 home runs, like he could be a better version of Brandon Lau. He could be Brandon Lau with 10 steals and like eligible at more positions, but I think I'd still go. Would you put McClain over Keeschel at this point?
I might, but I'm in the bag for McClain a little bit, but I think I would.
McClain showed much higher bat speed so far in these first few games, and now we have the retroactive bat speed data in spring training than we saw the last time Matt McClain played last year. So I think that right there is a huge indication that a lot of this Matt McClain situation is real. I think McClain and Keeschel are a bit of a toss-up, and then I think I guess just for the safety, I put Lau ahead of Colson Montgomery, but I'm keeping a very close eye on Colson Montgomery.
Yeah. In a weekly 14-team points league, so I lied. This is the last points league. Which starting pitcher, relief pitcher profiles as a better bet this season? Steven Matz or Reed Detmers? I chose Matz over Reed for this 11-day week because of matchup and park context. I'm just going to give my thoughts on Reed Detmers as a pitcher in general, and then I'll let you take the points league part of it. First of all, Steven Matz. he looked really good in spring, and they were really kind of shifting the pitch mix and making him a lot more like sinker and changeup heavy. And I thought the changeup heavy was good as a lefty. I didn't love what I saw from Steven Matz in the first game. Like I thought it was fine, but not great. Reed Detmers, I understand that he tired in the fifth, and then the reliever they brought in after him let up both inherited runners and then proceeded to also just get tagged himself. But like for 4 innings, it was a really good performance for Reed Detmers, and then he fatigued. And so that to me isn't a huge warning sign like this early in the season, like guys starting pitchers fatiguing in the 5th inning when they're up around like pitch 80 or whatever. Like these guys are still kind of ramping up. We saw Detmers with that new, they're calling it a splitter, but in spring training, when I talked to him, he referred to it as a changeup. And so I think it's probably a kick change would be my guess. If it has this splitter movement profile, but he calls it a changeup. He only threw 5 of them, but had a 60% CSW on it. Like it got some swings and misses. That's a good pitch for him, or will be a good thing for him to mix in against righties. I really like that he kept the slider heavy approach that he used as a reliever last year, because that is really important for him. I thought that was really important for him. And so like, listen, overall, like a 34% CSW, 73% strike rate. He didn't walk a batter. I thought there was some really interesting things from Reed Detmers against a pretty good Houston team. And so I far prefer Detmers over Matz. And I think people were too scared off by the final box score to see that like Reed Detmers, it wasn't a great performance, but there were some really interesting things that happened under the hood there.
Yeah, no walks and 9 strikeouts is where my eye went in the box score. And right there, I was incredibly encouraged, actually. I think it's Detmers over Matz in a landslide. And one thing about Detmers, he faced that Astros lineup that we talked about this a lot last year. They don't really have lefties. It's just Jordan. So
Yeah.
a lot of times, some teams will have lefties in the lineup that they won't be platooning. So I think that will give Detmers a little bit of a break. He'll be able to throw that sinker with the slider a little bit more, whereas so much more focusing on his fastball, which is still a good pitch. But I'm very deeply in on Reed Detmers right now. Similarly to we're talking about Soriano, it's like Angels pitching has now moved into like the 2010s, and I think that's really, really important for a lot of these guys to find any modicum of consistency that they haven't before. And also, the fastball velocity went down moving through rotation, but not enough significantly at all where I would think it's something that can hinder him. Like sitting 93, 94 as a lefty, you can be successful with that, very much so.
Especially early in the season. So yeah. I'm okay with that. Thoughts on Chris Bassett and Ryan Weathers in a 12-team league? That's a firm Ryan Weathers for me.
Yeah, that's the kind of thing where it's like, do you want the safety or do you want to dream? At this point in the season, we're dreaming.
Yeah. We're going to fire through some last ones here. We got about 5 minutes left, so we're going to go quick over here. Rate these prospects in order of how good of a fantasy player they might be. Jonah Tong, Robbie Snelling, J.R. Ritchie, Thomas White. Would you recommend stashing any? For me, it's how good they might be. Thomas White, I almost might have them in reverse order. Thomas White, J.R. Ritchie, Robbie Snelling, Jonah Tong. I'm stashing Thomas White in my home league. It's a keeper league. I don't think he's up until June or July. I think Snelling is up sooner in Miami. I think J.R. Ritchie might be up the first of this whole group.
I feel like
and he looked pretty good in spring.
I feel like Snelling is up first. He pitched a lot against the big league hitters in the spring. And then didn't Thomas White deal with something? Didn't he have an oblique?
He had like an oblique maybe?
Yeah. I think so that's something that probably puts him a little bit more behind the 8 ball. If I'm stashing one, I think it is Snelling. I think he's up first. And I think I like him a little bit more than Ritchie. But the big thing with Snelling is like you just have to watch. Similar, we're just talking about Reed Detmers as a lefty. Like, can you hold 94, 95? Because 2 years ago, when all his prospect shine fell off, he sunk down to like 92, 93. Last year, when it all came back, it was back to 94, 95. It's a very important line for him, and one that I think the Marlins will help him maintain.
Yeah. Rank your top 3 of this group: Helsley, Dennis Santana, Trevor McGill, Lucas Erceg, Jeff Hoffman. Helsley 1, Jeff Hoffman 2, Trevor McGill 3, but I'm concerned about his health.
Yeah. And then Erceg and then Santana?
And then Erceg and then Santana. Yeah.
I think I'm getting a little worried about Hoffman. I mean, the fact that he gave up another home run on Saturday, like I think he's still a great closer, and that team doesn't really have a wealth of other closing options, but I'm a little bit worried about him. Where I think I'm not. There's no fear with me with McGill the skills at all. Like that's kind of thing I always come back to. But it was very weird the drafting pattern between him and Abdi Uribe, which does make me think that we will see more of a relative platoon in saves there.
Yeah. Roki in rotation leash length, like if you were walking a mouse, like the tiniest, I don't really know, like the tiniest leash you can imagine.
The same thing with Carlos Estevez. Like we're gonna watch a pitch in regular season game, be like, oh, it doesn't work. See ya. Like
Yeah. Rank these three: Ozuna, Marcel Ozuna, Jake Berger, Colson Montgomery. For me, it's Berger, Montgomery, Ozuna.
I think so too, and I think pretty easily.
Yeah. Hold or drop Samuel Basayo for Francisco Alvarez or Dylan Dingler.
No,
I'm holding for now.
definitely. I think Basayo and Alvarez is something of a toss up, but definitely, I think Basayo is a little bit more secure.
Frank wants to know, will we see Colt Emerson and Peyton Tolley this season starting both at NA? Yes. Tolley did not have a good first AAA start. I'm not reading into that because it was one cold start in a cold weather after you just lost a rotation, like your battle to win a rotation spot. But yeah, I think we see both by June or July. Like the Tolley thing is going to depend on the health of the Red Sox starting pitchers.
Emerson, I believe, homered his first AAA plate appearance too of the season. Like he's only played 40 games in the high minors, but he looks quite ready.
Yeah. Acuna, Yordan Alvarez, James Wood, outfield. Pete Alonso, Nick Kurtz, and third baseman Jazz. Should I hold Langford over DeLauder or Stewart? I guess it's like he's just letting us know the lineup. Harry's letting us know the lineup, and then saying, should I hold Langford, who's on his bench, over Chase DeLauder and Sal Stewart? Yeah. I would still hold Chase DeLauder at this point. Wyatt Langford at this point. I really wish you could find a way to add Sal Stewart on your team, though.
And Chase DeLauder, but definitely don't get rid of any of those hitters.
Yeah. In a week-to-week categories league, is it wise to hold Connor Griffin on my bench, hoping for mid-late season contributions? Thanks.
Maybe. Depends what your stomach is like for what the Pirates are going to do here. Like Connor Griffin showed up to AAA and he's crushed so far. I think a lot of us expected. He's still not really lifting the ball though, and I think that might be something the Pirates are watching for. But they can't make the same mistake again they made with Paul Skeens, can they?
So I would hold because April 8th is the date. April 8th is the date where if he's called up before then, he's still eligible for the prospect PPI. In whatever the PPI thing, and so they could still get a draft pick and all of that. If he's down after April 8th.
Yeah.
Then the incentive for the Pirates to call him up lessens dramatically because it's just to win games, which doesn't seem to matter to the Pirates. So they might hold him down for a really long time. Last question of the show. Cam Schlittler for $16 or Yuri Perez for $5.
Yuri.
For me, it's Yuri.
I think it's easily Yuri. If it was the same
I
price,
like Cam Schlittler. But that's a lot of savings for a pitcher that I think might even be better.
Yeah, it's like steak or salmon. Like you're gonna go with the steak. If you're
Cam Schlittler is your salmon?
Cam Schlittler is the salmon for me. There, it's like it's good, but like this is steak. Like what am I gonna do?
Yeah. Fair, like it. I like Cam Schlittler though. I like hearing all of your questions. Talking baseball with James. James, full week of the regular season. What is your content plan this week? What should people look out for?
I'm doing my weekly stolen base update column. It's going to come out on Wednesday, looking at a lot of trends of especially catchers and pitchers, how they interact with the run game defensively.
Oh, is that just like when does Reese McGuire start?
Basically, I mean that's gonna be a huge piece of this one. I mean, and when does Augustine Ramirez catch? That will be this entire piece, but that will be big if you guys want to get ahead in stolen bases and maybe try to play it week by week more so than if you've started say a fantasy baseball season, you're behind in steals. This would be a great thing for you to check out.
So I have my article come out today on streaming starters for the week and also some pitch mix discussion there. So make sure you go over to NBC Sports and check that out. Wednesday, I'll have my look around baseball article, which will be just a little bit of baseball news mixed with some fantasy stuff. So you can look for that. And then Friday is the first portion, or let's call it the initial draft of the waiver wire article with the follow-up coming on Sunday. So make sure you're there for that. You can follow me on Twitter at Samulski NYC. You can follow James on Twitter at James_Schiano. And then make sure you keep the Rotoworld player news feed up especially as you're setting your lineups today. Make sure you have that up and refreshed so you know who's in the lineup, who's not. Make sure you can make any last-minute changes. And we'll see you next Monday at 1 p.m. again over here on the Rotoworld Fantasy Baseball Player